Welcome to the Hybrid Real Estate Professional Podcast, where we dive deep into the intersection of career, family, and finances. Learn the mindsets, tips, and strategies to help you on your personal journey to build a life of abundance and purpose for you and your family. Now here's your host, Aaron Amin. Welcome back to another episode of the Hybrid Real Estate Professional Podcast. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, Lucas Kelly. Lucas has an amazing story. He started his career as an electrical contractor, working a W-2 job for years before leaving to start his own small business with a partner. That business is now scaled to over 60 employees, all while Lucas built a portfolio of 28 rental properties on the side. In our interview, we retrace his journey and the lessons he learned along the way. Lucas is one of the most humble people I've ever met, and I absolutely loved hearing him tell his story. I am confident you will too. Let's get into it. All right, welcome back to the Hybrid Real Estate Professional Podcast. Tonight I am here with Lucas Kelly. Lucas has an amazing story of building both a business and a rental portfolio. And I'd love for you, Lucas, to just introduce yourself in your own words. And thank you very much for being here.
All right, Aaron, I appreciate you having me. Like I said, my name is Lucas Kelly. I own an electrical contracting company. And I started that when I was 26 years old. That's when I quit my W-2. I was working as an electrician for another company. And me and my business partner decided we could do it on our own. So we gave it a shot. Just started two guys with two trucks working out of our houses. And I started working really hard and I just was blessed along the way. And now we're sitting 17 years later, we're sitting at about 60 employees doing roughly 10 million in sales a year. Doing pretty good, feeling blessed about that. Along the way, I listened to a lot of podcasts and people kind of, told me that a business is good for definitely generating cash, but you need something to stick. You need some assets. So we started buying some real estate. And before I realized that, our accountant told us we needed to build a building. So in 2013, we built a building and it was a commercial building for H&K Electric to be in. And that was a very good deal. And we listened to her and we actually started an LLC and me and Josh did. And we owned that to the LLC and then rent it to our business, HK Electric. So that's neat. I didn't know you could do that before then. So that was really our first piece of real estate that we purchased.
Awesome. And Lucas is one of the most humble people I've ever encountered that is a real estate investor, business owner, but he's built quite an impressive portfolio of rentals as well. But I want to double back real quick. So you mentioned that you started as a W-2 employee, presumably in the same kind of line of work. But then at one point you made a very conscious decision to split off and start this real, I don't know if bootstrapped is the right way to say it, but you and your partner started it from the ground up and built this business from just the two of you all the way up to 60 employees. 60 is a lot of people to put on a payroll and to take care of and develop and keep busy and all that. So I think in addition to real estate, which is what we normally talk about on this show, just having you kind of retrace like the early days of changing from a W-2 employee where you got a steady paycheck coming in to that flip the switch to an entrepreneur, starting a business and scaling it. Like, what were those early days like? And it sounds like you learned a lot as you were going. But
it was tough. We did everything the hard way. Everybody calls it side hustles on the podcast in the real estate world. And the entrepreneur, they call it side hustles. We call it side work. So we were hiring to be an electrician, or your friends and family call you and say, hey, you're an electrician, come do this. So we started doing a lot of side work. And that's where me and my partner met. We were working the same company, but he was doing a lot of side work. I was doing a lot of side work. Still taking care of our company. We always put them first. But anytime something came up, we'd work evenings and weekends. We had a lot of bills. We were young. Both had kids, so we were like, "Hey, we're gonna do this." And it was funny because we were doing so much side work, people started talking about it. Like they actually named us HK Electric because his name was Huddleston and my name's Kelly, so they named us HK Electric. And in 2006, he actually came to me and said, "Hey, buddy, I'm fixing to quit and just really give this a go. What do you think?" And I said, "Man, you're crazy." I said, "We're not doing that." And he said, "I am." I said, "Okay." So he did it. He quit first. I helped him on his weekends like I've been. And he did really good. So he's the one that really got us started. In 2007, he came to me and said, "Hey, we're going to hire somebody or you're quitting." So I took a leap of faith. Me and my wife prayed about it. We went into it thinking, Hey, if it don't work, worst happen, we go back to our other job. We got to replace our income. I feel like I can do that and see what happens. So I quit and I gave it a shot, and it was hard. I had no business skills. I was an electrician. I was not good at talking to people. I was not good at selling, not good at estimating. I couldn't even email. So that was a big learning curve. I still, one of the funny stories is we got our first decent sized job, and I hired my first electrician, and we were down in Austin doing a job for another contractor, and I had to learn how to do payroll. I had in a hotel room with him. I had the QuickBooks opened up, YouTube in it, figuring out how to do payroll. And he's like, "Is this gonna work?" I'm like, It's gonna work. The check will cash. I promise you. So don't worry about that." But that's funny. That's how we started, just learning as we go. Some of the early days, looking back, I should have hired people a lot quicker. I shouldn't have tried to do everything myself. Me and Josh tried to do everything ourselves. We were working during the day, doing the books, payroll, you name it, selling jobs, estimating jobs. And it definitely took a toll on us and our family. But finally, listening to podcasts, talking to people, we realized that, hey, we got to start. There's people out here that can do better than us. We need to start hiring some people. And so we started hiring some people and some office people, some more electricians, and realized that they can do it a lot better than us and give us some freedom to go out and grow and do more work. You know, that's how it grew because we finally got smart and hired some people. But I see that. That's why I tell a lot of people about, I don't think you got to do it all yourself because you can't. And if if I'd have knew that back then, I'd be a lot farther along than I am now.
Pretty clear if you have a company with 60 employees, that's not a
Yeah.
workload that's meant to be done, by just two people. But I'm
Yeah.
sure obviously you've scaled your business to get there. But now it's anytime I hear an entrepreneur retrace their story, their beginning, there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of doing it yourself. You can never perfectly time when to hire someone, and hiring in and of itself is a skill, and making a hire that's not the best fit or not being able to train them properly or not knowing how to manage, those are also skills that take a lot of time to develop. Like you said, I'm sure you were very good at your trade, but then you had to learn a lot about running a business as you went. And I've just got to imagine, like you said, your partner took a plunge first, and then he gave you that ultimatum. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm either going to hire someone else or you're going to come join me. What do you want to do? And I love what you said. You prayed on it. You talked to your wife and you came to the conclusion that, hey, this is a leap of faith. And the best part of what I think you said was, what's the worst that can happen is that you'll go back to your job.
That's
And I
right.
think sometimes people perceive those leaps of faith as the worst. They feel like the world's going to be over if they don't succeed. And sometimes that prevents them from taking the leap. And I want to tie that into real estate because I think a lot of people, especially people that listen to this show, when they think about entering their real estate investing journey, they're so worried about what might happen. The house burns down or the tenants don't pay rent and squat for a year. They chase the kind of worst case scenarios in their head, so much so that it prevents them from potentially taking action. And I understand those fears. I understand feeling that way because those are scary situations that could happen. But what would you say was when you started investing in real estate? Because I want to start talking about your real estate portfolio that you've built. What gave you the courage or the feeling that, hey, like I'm ready to start taking these risks on because I understand the value, the potential reward?
There was a lot of things. One thing was it was all around me. We were working for people that's buying real estate. They were talking to me about it. I had bought a house for myself when I was 20 years old for me and my wife and my daughter. And that thing had doubled in like 6, 7 years. And I hadn't sold it, but my neighbor sold their house and I found out what they got for it. And I was like, is it really worth that? How'd you do that? He was like, man, yours is worth the same thing. And I was like, are you serious? And so it's like a slap in the face, man. Real estate's where you need to be at. And then our county had us build our building. And then I realized that we can make money. Our business is paying for this real estate. That was me. I was okay. And so it's starting to click. And so then I started listening. I was a big Dave Ramsey fan early on. And then from there, I started listening to Bigger Pockets, and Bigger Pockets really got me going. And then I listened to everybody on there said, read the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I don't read. So I listened to audio version. And I was like, man, that's awesome. That really hit me hard. So that's when we really started buying some stuff. The next purchase we actually bought was a beach house. And that was a crazy story. my business partner, he talked me into this too. He been going to the beach for years, and he goes same place, and that lady that he rents from got ready to sell hers, and she called him and said, "Hey, you think you would be interested in buying this beach house?" And he said, hey, of course, he said, "No, there ain't no way I can afford a beach house." And she shot him a price, and he called me about it. He said, "I think we can make this work and make some money off it." And I said, "There," and of course, I said the same thing. "No way can we own beach property?" And he said, "Let's look at it." So I looked at it and I said, "Hey, yeah, I think we can make some money." So we made her offer. She accepted it. That deal actually didn't work out. The family got involved, and they said, "Oh, we think we want to keep it." But then we were hooked. My business partner went back down there, and he found us another one similar to it, and we bought it, and we've been renting it out since, and it's been doing pretty good. It's appreciated really good. The cash flow is good, but of course we put all that back in because the beach tears everything up. But the appreciation's been really great from
And
that
have
one.
you been running that
So
as a short-term rental, a long-term rental?
yes,
Short-term rental.
short-term rental, and the best thing about having a rental on the beach is you get to go every year. We definitely take advantage of that. We'll go at least once a year, and my business partner, he goes a little bit more than me, but it's been a fun time. And like I said, if we sold it right now, we can make some money.
I hear very little downside with this situation.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
they call it a lifestyle investment, right? Something that you're able to
Yeah.
make some money off of and get some use out of, and
Mhm.
even some tax benefits. And like you said, quite a bit of appreciation too.
That's right. I will argue with anything that the best part of a short term rental is when you actually get to stay in it. And some people say, "Oh, you're costing yourself money when you do that," but it's just neat to get to actually stay in something that you own and that somebody else is paying for. And it puts it all in perspective. Hey, is a cool thing. This is a real estate is a great way to make money and have good times with your family and my kids and wife. My kids definitely are understanding. Hey, we're making money off of this one. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to get to how your kids and your family play into your overall kind of real estate investing journey. But I also, we have yet to touch on the fact, I think largely due to your humility, but Lucas owns a 25 rental properties directly, and I believe you own a handful with partners as well. And that doesn't happen by accident, right? You have to make a pretty conscious decision to scale a portfolio to that level. You've already talked about how some of the gears started turning in your head. You started seeing some of these tax benefits. And as you built your business, you saw tax advantages there, and how you could even leverage real estate and have your business rent from yourself. All these really cool creative things. So it seems like once you started understanding those things, it really changed your mentality and your identity even towards that of an investor. Is that accurate? And then also, how did you build up enough momentum to get all the way to that mid 20s number of rentals?
Yeah, definitely. It's the more I listen to the podcast, the more I seen how my net worth was going up through podcasts. They told me to start looking at my net worth. I never looked at my net worth for that, and it started going up just from the real estate. And I thought this is cool stuff. And then my wife, one of the next buildings we bought was my wife owns a business. She sells dancewear, ballet, that kind of stuff. And she was renting for somebody. And she mentioned, she said, "Why don't we get a building for us?" And I mentioned to my partner and said, "You want to buy her a building? She can rent from us." And he said, "Yeah, let's do it." So we bought a building for her. So we're doing the same thing again. And then right after that, I've been really preaching to her about buying some rent houses, and she was against it. And one of her friends was selling their house, gonna buy a new house. And she said, "I found this rent house." And when she said that, I jumped on it. I was like, "Heck yeah, let's do it." So we bought that one in 2018. And we took a step back for a couple of years. We didn't buy a whole lot, but we went crazy in 21. We bought 18 properties in 21. And the reason I'm trying to think the best reason for that is over the years, a lot of people on these podcasts probably have some really good creative ways to make, they did it. They owner financed and got partners and stuff like that. We didn't do that. We made money through my electrical business, and I was a big stock investor, so I had some money put back in stocks. And when 21 hit, I think me and probably everybody else in America learned about real estate and really got serious about it. And plus, I had a little history for buying the other ones, and they did good. I dipped into the stocks and I went on a buying spree. And the one story out of that 18 that I really like is I bought 11 portfolio together. And it's a neat story because the way I found it is I was actually going to a for sale by owner that my wife found too, because she's in on it now too. So she's like finding me places all the time. And we showed up And when we were showing up, a realtor buddy of mine was leaving. And I've known him for years, went to church with him. He's a good guy. And he questioned, he said, "What y'all doing here?" We said, "We're looking for sale by owner." He said, "You should have called me." And I said, "Man, we just look buying for sale by owners." He said, "Okay." He said, "I'm going to call you tomorrow." I said, "Okay." So he calls me and he said, "Are you going to buy that house?" And I said, "Yeah, I think we are." So we made an offer. We got it. Not through him, it's for sale by owner. And he said, "What are you looking for?" I said, "I'm just anything." He said, "What's your goals?" I said, "I'd like to buy 2 or 3 a year." He said, "Okay." He said, "I got a portfolio that I'm managing right now," because he's also a property manager. He said, it's 11 properties, 10 single families and one commercial. And the older gentleman that owns it, he's wanting to get out. And he shot me a price, and I was like, "Man, there ain't no way I can do that." And then your wife talked about it, and we said, "That's just too much." And then I talked to one of my other buddies, real estate. He said, "Dude, that's a deal. You need to get it." So I bought it. We ended up buying it, making an offer, negotiated a little bit down, got it, and ended up getting like 11 properties for basically 91,000 a piece. So came out of it just with a couple hundred in equity. And that's when I was hooked. So then we went on a buying spree after that again, bought several more between the next 2 years. Didn't do as good as the next ones because was just like, I can't go wrong on on this. I did so good on that on 11. So the next ones, I probably bought a little too high. They're doing all right, but the 11 is the best I ever did on anything. That's my great story, my home run.
That is a home run if there
Yeah.
ever was one. And nobody can blame you for going on a shopping spree with all that cheap debt that was flying around in
Yeah,
2021.
definitely.
If anything, you can't necessarily choose when those rate environments are going to come around, and it's unlikely we'll see that again anytime soon. And it's virtually impossible to time the market. But yeah, when opportunity strikes, yeah, you got to do it. And that's amazing. 18 in 1 year. So that I would say by definition is a bit of hyper scaling. But I think
That's right.
what you saw was it's a powerful asset class. You said you were invested in stocks, but you made a conscious decision to invest in real estate as a supplement. Now, with those 18 properties comes 18 potential headaches. So, how did that scaling that quickly with that many additional doors, with roofs and water heaters and potential problems, how did that change the balance of your life and how you felt? Did it elevate your stress to have that many potential issues that could go wrong, or how did you think about it as it was happening?
I had my good days and bad days. One good thing is I was property manager. This is the same property manager that sold it to me. I let him take all of them over, so he's property manager, and that helps a lot. One thing that did make my stress level go up is I decided to remodel. Anytime somebody came out of them, I decided to remodel to get the higher rent, and I think I did at least maybe 4 or 5 remodels in 21 and 22, and I've done a couple already in 23. And that kinda stressed me out because I took care of most of them, still running my electrical business, and, of course, I'm hands-on sometimes, so I'm over there doing a lot of the work when I shouldn't be. I should be hiring more people, and we hired a lot out, but I'd still go over there and do some work here and there, and that really took my cash, so I had to back off of that and come up with a budget. Okay, I'm gonna this is supposed to be a cash machine, and I need to use the cash I'm making to put back in the property. And I don't need to be getting cash out of other places and putting the cash in my own pocket to do this. So I've had to slow down on remodels. I still got a few that I'm going to do, but I'm going to stagger them out, maybe one a year. So,
Fair. So I've heard this
yep.
theme a few times in our conversation so far, which is I should have delegated or I should have hired sooner, or maybe there's things that I'm doing that other people could be doing. So what I want to actually ask you is, have you ever gone through the exercise of calculating what an hour of your time is worth in opportunity cost? And if you spend 6 hours on a Saturday doing the hands-on work versus hiring it out, do you feel like you're coming out ahead because you're saving money that you would otherwise be paying somebody? Do you think of it that way, or is that a little too
No, I
binary?
definitely think of it that way, and I'm glad you brought that up. And that's something I need to be doing more. I've never actually done the exercise, but I do think about it, and I've actually started thinking about it even a different way. Not so much as money as I take money out as I could be spending time with my family, and you can't put a price on that. Yeah, you can say, okay, I'm worth $100 or $5,000, but it don't matter what that price is. If it's taking time away from your family, and in my real estate's actually supposed to be passive. My electrical business is my job. My real estate's supposed to be passive. I need to let somebody else do it. And I've gotten better at that. And I need to spend time with my family.
I couldn't agree more about spending more time with your family and making sure you prioritize that. I do want to push back on one thing you just said, though. You said real estate is supposed to be passive. And I really try and be careful with my use of that word, the
You're
P
right. You're
word,
right.
because I think if you're a direct owner of real estate, even if you have the best property manager in the world, there's still something in the back of your head that's wondering what's going on at your properties that is a little bit different than owning a share of Apple or S&P 500 index fund that's sitting in your brokerage account. It feels different.
Oh
And
yeah, it does.
there are levels of passivity. And I think you can achieve a pretty high level of passivity with a good team and good systems. But I do think there's a difference. And I only have 8 rentals. And I say only, and I shouldn't even say that because that's still
That's a
you
bunch.
know, that's enough.
Yeah, definitely.
It's 8 cash flowing assets. It's 8 potential seeds that we planted for our family, but it's also 8 potential headaches across 3 different states with 3 different teams and all that. So I constantly find myself battling the idea of how passive is it really?
No, you're totally right. And my property manager does a great job. And most of the time, I probably just need to let him do it. But you're totally right. Even if he was perfect, you're still paying taxes, you're paying insurance, you're checking insurance, or you're worried about it when you get the income statement. Why did we have a vacancy? Why did we have the plumber come out there again? So you're definitely, even with a perfect property manager, and he's pretty good, you still got some issues. So you're totally right.
Definitely. A couple other questions. So we didn't really talk about where you live and the market that you're in and how, it's definitely not one of the major flashy big city markets. So can you tell us where you live and what that market's and how that's been just like being in a little bit off the beaten path?
Yeah, I'm in Texarkana, which we're halfway between Little Rock and Dallas, and we got just around 100,000 people here in the area, and so it's not a big city at all. And for me, I would say average house. When I was buying them, I was getting you could get a good 3.2. My buy boxes, I like a 3.2 in a good neighborhood brick. That's I like a brick on a concrete slab, 3.2 in a good neighborhood. And usually you could down between 100 130, maybe put just a 5 or 10,000 in them and you'd be good. Now it's probably more like 150 to 180. And you got to put 5 or 10,000 in them. It is going up a little bit, so I've seen some appreciation. But I like it. It's close. I can drive by them. I like to drive by them and see them. And I know people, I know you, don't you? You have some out of your area, don't you?
I do. I'm 900 miles from my nearest rental.
Oh, wow. That's scary. And I say it's scary. We got the beach house, which is in Gulf Shores, Alabama. But we have the Casa does it, and they're really hand. We don't mess with them. They do everything. They're turnkey, so they do the cleaning and all that stuff. So we don't really think about that, and that's a pretty good ways away. But I do have 2 short-term rentals that are about 2 hours away, and I probably go up there too much, but they're on a river. We go up there and hang out and do a little work while we're there. But it's a good area. I kick myself in the butt sometimes. I'm like, should I be investing in Austin or Nashville, Tennessee, or something where I could get better appreciation? So that's definitely on my mind. And through Action Academy, I've been thinking about possibly doing some deals with some people and getting to some areas that's going to appreciate a little bit more.
We made it about 25 minutes in without mentioning Action Academy because I feel like half the guests that I bring on this show are people I've met through Action Academy. But we'll do our brief plug. That's the
Yeah.
mastermind that Lucas and I are both in it. There's a lot of amazing investors in there that have a wide range of skills and stories and experiences. Hence why they keep coming on the show. But yeah, it's so easy. There's so many places in the country. It's so easy to get distracted and say, oh, I wish I was here. I wish I was there. But to me, honestly, I find myself wishing for a more stable, predictable market. And that's why it's interesting to hear your story where you've been able to acquire these really amazing properties that are doing work for you. They're cash flowing, they are appreciating, you're paying down the loans, and it's predictable, right? Like I own 3 properties in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is one of those markets where when it goes up a lot and when it goes down, it comes right back down. And that volatility reminds me of investing in a growth stock sometimes. It's not quite as volatile, but the movements are more exaggerated. Whereas I invest
Exactly.
in a market in Iowa, known as the Quad Cities area, and that's a little closer to what you were just describing. Like even in the run up in 2020, 2021, the houses went from 120K to 150, not 200 to 400. I think there are benefits to both types of market, and the fact that you have this connection and you understand where you live so well because you've operated, you've built a business, you've built a life there. There is something to be said for that. And it's a differentiator, especially because you have that construction background and you know how to work with the houses yourself. Even though we
Yeah.
talked about you should be delegating some of that.
Need to be to get out of it. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, in 2008, when the downturn, I joke about that. I didn't even know that was going on. We were doing electric work. We were poor. We were just, it was me and my partner and a couple employees. And we went to work every day and did electric work. We didn't know anything was going on. Didn't know there was a recession. Didn't even think about it. I heard people talking about it, but didn't really think about it. So now that I'm into real estate and I'm in the business more, I ask a lot of questions that I've been asking some people that I know that were in the real estate back then. And in my area, they said that we didn't really get affected that much by it. There was definitely some, I know some people that are in the sales business, recreation, stuff like that, and they definitely seen some bad times. But the real estate here where we live at didn't even get affected. Like I said, I didn't even know what was going on. Farthest from my mind.
There's something to be said for being able to just sleep peacefully at night without worrying about these giant swings in the value of your assets. As a real estate investor, there's no way to fully insulate yourself from that because the more assets you own, the more potential there is for things to happen, good and bad. Again, that predictability, I think, is valuable in a certain way that if you invest in one of those heavy growth markets, yeah, you could totally win big, but there's some gravity that comes along with that is largely out of your control. So we were talking about your family, and you said something I really liked, which is that your kids, who I believe you said they're 14 and 19, they have watched you accumulate these assets, build this business, and really just demonstrate a lot of financial intelligence, if you will. And you said they noticed it and they say, hey, these things are working for us. This is doing something for our family. So how do you approach talking about money in your household and while they were growing up?
We talk about it a lot. First thing I want to say is one of the successes of my business has been my wife. My wife, I didn't have to worry about where she was at or who was taking care of my kids because I worked me and my partner worked a bunch of hours and we both had great wives that took care of our kids. And we could wake up at 4 and come home at 10 and get called out at 1. And they weren't worried about us and we weren't worried about them. We never had to worry about getting, if they were fed or taken care of or anything like that. So that makes it a lot easier to go out and grind and when you don't have to worry about anything else. So I will say that. And as far as just over the years talking to my kids, I talked a lot about business growing up. I talked about electric work, how we made money, how we charged, how we paid. So I've always talked to them about that. And when I started buying properties, I talked to them back to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Hey, what is an asset? Is this four-wheeler or jet ski or something boat an asset? No, but is this house? I said, yes, we're making money off it. And they think that's pretty neat. And back to, like I said, when we go to the beach or the river and we're hanging out, most time we're also working while we're there. So they help work. They make trips up there. They've had to clean before. That's good for them to see that. But I also always make comments to them. The reason we get to come up here so much and was because we own it and we're renting it out. We couldn't own this $1 million property if it was just for our use. We couldn't do that because we get to rent it out and let other people use it and pay for it. We're able to do that. So I think that's starting to make sense to them. And I make sure that when people say, you have a beach house, I said, no, I have a rental property because that's what it is. If I had just had a beach house, I'd be there for 2 months during the summer and in the winter and everything else. But that's not what I have. I have a rental property and I get to go once a year because the rest of the time we got to rent it out. And I think they see that. And I talk to them a lot about business, like for college. I didn't go to college. I went to a trade school. If they want to go to college, I'm going to push them to it. But I also tell them that's not the only way to go. Don't feel like you have to go get a job. We have to work for somebody. If that's what you want to do, that's great. Business gives you more freedom if you don't do like me, because it was my job, but it can create freedom. Real estate can create freedom. And I really preach that because my parents were great parents. My dad was a hard worker and did really good, but he also worked a lot of hours. And he was Dave Ramsey before Dave Ramsey was popular. I mean, he worked at a paper mill and worked a lot of hours every week and put 20% in his 401k. And he retired very wealthy, but he had to work 60, 70 hours a week and he didn't get to retire till he's 60. And now I realize there's a better way. I don't want to retire when I'm 60. I like to retire in my 40s or 50s. And so I'm preaching that to my kids also. Let's retire early. Or that way you have a choice when you get older. You can do whatever you want to do. If you want to work till you're 60, that's great, but you don't want to have to work till you're 60. So that's the kind of things I talk to them about.
I love that. I think it's so important for people to know there's a choice. So in my generation, in my very specific kind of age bracket, I feel like everything when I was in high school, it was just assumed that you were going to a 4-year university. And there was this feeling that if you weren't on that track, you were doing something wrong or you were going to be left behind, or that nobody talked about picking up a trade as an option. It just wasn't in the social atmosphere where I went to school. And I didn't go to some big fancy private school. It was a public school in San Diego area. And I mention that because a lot of people that I grew up with went to school, took out hundreds of thousands of dollars, or at least let's say $100,000 on average in student loan debt. And they got a degree. They were forced to choose what they wanted to do when they were 18, commit to it, spend a bunch of money on it. And a lot of people I know have since moved on and do not work in the line that they've studied. And they have this crippling debt to show for it. And I resent the fact that it felt like there was no other alternative. I'm very lucky. I did not leave college with a ton of debt like that, but just so many people have dealt with it at my age group. And I see them, they studied one thing and then they went and had to build a career and work their way up the ranks in another career that wouldn't have even required that degree. And that bums me out. And I love the idea of instilling the idea of having options, taking on trades, starting businesses, investing in real estate. This stuff is very accessible for people who have the work ethic and are problem solvers. And the sooner you can become a problem solver, the sooner you're going to unlock that freedom and have those options to retire early or live the life a little more freely the way you want to, instead of having to lock into something until you're 65. And if you want to do that, there's no problem with that, like you said. But
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah,
And
having the
we go and talk to a lot of high schools about it, about the trades. We're a union contractor. We're part of a union apprenticeship. So we do a lot of talking, and because a lot of people just don't know about it. A lot of people, like you said, think college is the only way. And if that's what you want to do, that's great. I'm not knocking college, but you can join an apprenticeship and get your school paid for and come out making top dollar and not owe nobody nothing and have a trade that you can open your own business with, you can travel with. It's a pretty neat thing. So
Yeah, that's so cool. When I think of the American dream, the 2023 American dream, I think of your story. It's like started a business, have a family, live a life where it seems like you guys are, very in sync and aligned with each other's goals. You have quality time together. You have a great relationship with your kids, great relationship with your wife. That's all you can really ask for, right? I have one
I
question
agree.
about, do you feel, so you work hard, you work a lot. Do you feel like you have the balance in your life right now that you want to have?
I do now. I feel pretty good where I'm at right now. For a lot of years, I didn't. And one of the reasons I got into real estate is because my electrical business was overwhelming to me at times. And I felt like there was no way out. I didn't feel like I didn't know the things I know now that I've learned from other people that I can delegate, that I can build it. And I need to be working on my business instead of in my business. So I was buying real estate as a way out. And now my business is doing a lot better and I have a lot more flexibility because I've changed some of my ways and learned from other people. And so now I'm in a good spot. My business it runs without me. I still need to be there because I enjoy it and I'm there to consult and help. And the guys, when they have problems, a lot of problems that they're going through, I've been through them. So I help them with that. But I'm not working 80, 90 hours a week. I'm not getting the 1 o'clock calls in the morning. Somebody's broke down and we got to go get them fixed. And so that's pretty good shape. And then, but I still enjoy real estate too. And I'm making pretty good money in my business where I can still keep on buying real estate and investing best. I'm in a pretty good spot. And then one thing I have done, even when I was working the 80, 100 hours, me and my partner, we never missed our kids' stuff. We might have to take off at 6, go coach a soccer game or softball. He did softball, I did soccer. And then we might go out to eat afterward and take the kids home and the wife. And then we might go back to the office and stay there till 1 to finish up. But by golly, we didn't miss something. So that was great. We could leave because we were our own boss. Usually that meant having to come in later, stay early, come in earlier, stay later. to do that, but we always made it happen.
As we sit here at, it's almost 10, no, it's 10:30 your time. I can relate very much because I protect those, I call them the sacred hours between 5:30 and 8 p.m. every night. I am with my family. We eat dinner every night. I put my daughter to bed every night. That's something I'm not really willing to compromise. And so what that means is even if I have something that I'm working on, I go pencils down at 5:30. And if it really needs to be done that day, I'll finish it at 8:30. That includes recording this podcast. So I thank you very much for being willing to join me at this odd hour or two.
Definitely. Like I said, my wife asked me why we were doing this, and I said, I know we talked about this earlier, but I was telling everybody else why we were doing this late. And I said, he's got a young family, and I said, I think this is his time. And she said, oh, we understand that. So we've all been there, so that's cool that you do that.
I love it. So what's next for you? You're going to buy 18 houses this year and hire another 60 employees, or what's on the horizon for you?
Well, I'm not going to buy 18. I have bought one. I have a small goal, and I know some people say this, you need to go big, but I have one small goal is it don't matter what's going on. I'm going to buy at least one house a year. And I have done that, and I'm turning into a short rental or midterm rental, excuse me. It's doing pretty good in Texarkana right now. We got some construction workers staying in my other one that's midterming, and it's doing really good. So I bought another one in a pretty good area that's a new hospital's being built right next to it. And I'm hoping that it'll appreciate good and I can flip it if I want to. I probably won't because I buy and hold everything, but we're going to midterm it. And then I actually had turned 2 into rentals this year. I bought that one, and then I built a new house. We moved in December, and our house we sold, or we were living in, I was wanting to sell it because we had a bunch of equity in it. And we had it on the market, and a month went by, nobody jumped on or anything. And my wife came to me one day and she said, why are we selling and buying house at the same time? And I said, we got a lot of equity in this one. And she said, it don't make sense to me. We're buying, but we're also selling. And I said, you know what? You're right. Let's keep it. So we turned that into a rental, and it's cash flowing really good, but it's because we got a lot of equity in it. And I'll probably leave that in there. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I'll leave that in there because it makes me feel good, and I'm getting the cash flow out of it. So we actually got 2 new rentals this year, long story short. But other than that, I'm going to at least buy 1 or 2 a year. I'm really looking into Action Academy, investing in other people. Another way I've grown, there's a lot of people in this group that are a lot smarter than me, including you, that know how to buy real estate and just are grinders and really thinking bigger than me and can get in some really cool deals through multifamily, self-storage stuff that I don't know anything about, would be scared to do. So I'm looking to partner with some of them in the future and maybe get in some different stuff and learn some stuff along the way.
That's amazing. I love how open-minded you are and how willing you are to try new things. And yeah, just how creative you've been in your journey, both as a business owner, a real estate investor, and in your family. I've loved talking to you, Lucas. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch or learn more about what you do?
I'm not great at social media. I got an email address. It's electric8980@gmail.com. You can email me. And I'll definitely email you back. I love talking to people about business. I'm not great at talking, as you can see. I got a little better towards the end. I'm not great at talking, but I do love talking about business and real estate. I like learning, but also teaching. If I can teach you something, like I said, most of the time it's what not to do and how we built our business. And I'm usually an open book, so you can ask me anything from payroll to HR to electrical questions, and I'll try to help you.
You hear that, listeners? You got someone who's willing to share however many 15, 20 years of business and real estate knowledge with you. I will leave your email address in the show notes if anybody does want to reach out. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story. I know the listeners are going to love it, and I hope you have a wonderful night.
All right, Aaron, thanks for having me.